being compliant in Philadelphia. And I'm joined by Tracy Thompson, and I'll tell a little bit about her. So as you see on the screen, and if anybody can't see it or I'm doing anything wrong, please let me know. Um, so this is our Chutes and Ladders version of the Philadelphia bureaucratic system. Anybody who's a landlord knows that it is complex and there's a lot to know about being compliant. And it changes quite frequently. So we'll be talking about some of the new things that are coming down the line and new regulations and things like that. Um, but mostly, I wanted to talk about the reason like we did this screen is not that compliance is funny, but the attitude that I want to suggest that everybody take is as frustrating as it can be to just learn how to do it and kind of roll with the punches. It's a lesson I've learned over the years that just makes it it'll just be much better for your business. There's definitely a place for ranting and venting, and our Facebook group provides that. If you don't know about it, there's a real landlording Facebook group called Philadelphia Landlords Connect. You can look it up on Facebook and please join. So you'll see a lot of ranting and venting on there, but in general, it's just important to learn how to navigate and deal with things. And you'll find that when you learn how to do that, you're able to move forward and to make the pivots that you need to and to handle whatever comes at you. Philadelphia is still a good place to invest and to be a landlord. And the reason that I wanted to do this webinar is because it is so complex. There's a lot to learn, but it's possible. So Tracy's going to help us do that, and we're going to move on. So let me just tell you a bit about Tracy Thompson. She is the founder and CEO of the Landlord Locker Room. She herself has been a landlord for 20 years and learned the ropes on managing her own properties. She has several dozen properties that she has accumulated over the years. She's learned the business through the hands-on experience. She's an amazing person at overcoming challenges and navigating through all of the regulations. And she's learned that she jumps into it and she learns how to work in the system and keeps up to speed. She's a great person to get advice from. She does coaching and courses, and she helps people with all kinds of things with compliance, evictions, and stuff like that. So she has a lot to teach us today. I want to talk a bit about what Real Landlording Philadelphia is before we get started on the compliance. So we're doing webinars, first of all. So like this one, the Philadelphia Landlord Compliance Playbook. A couple of weeks ago, we did a really great webinar on HVAC where we had an HVAC technician come on and share with us all kinds of information. You can also see that we always record and put it out there on our YouTube channel. There is a Real Landlording YouTube channel. I think it was on our Facebook group. So everywhere on social media that we're active, you can find that. Okay, so Real Landlording was an idea that I had that developed over the years since I became a landlord in Philadelphia. I'm actually invested in many states and areas, but I live near Philadelphia. I have a lot of properties in Philadelphia, and I found it to be one of the more challenging markets for many reasons. And as I saw the different challenges and learned about the different pain points that Philadelphia landlords have, I wanted to come up with ways of making things better and easier. So that was the idea behind Real Landlording. We have a network of all kinds of contractors, vendors, service providers that can provide pretty much anything you need during your journey of being a landlord. From the time before you even make a purchase and you're trying to figure out what to do, what's right, what neighborhood to invest in, do the numbers work? Once you have properties, what kind of rehab should you do? What makes sense? What's going to get you the best rent, the best tenants? All of the compliance issues, the tax issues. We're actually about to on our newsletter and Facebook group and in other places, we'll be announcing a partnership that we have with a group of attorneys who will review whether your property taxes are overassessed and can help you with doing the appeals. There's no cost for that, and if you do the appeal, they take a percentage of the amount of the taxes that get reduced. So all kinds of services like that that are going to make life easier for you and smoother. I see people looking for everything from, the smallest stuff, how to get a faucet fixed, looking for a handyman, looking for a plumber, to much, much larger projects. And it's very hard today. There's so much information out there and it's so accessible that it actually makes it harder to figure out what to do. So we have that group of vetted providers, and we're constantly onboarding more. And this venture is really growing and evolving. We're getting a lot smarter. We're using a lot of tools. We're actually building an AI native company that maybe doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people, but it's really going to be a smart organization the input we get from you guys as you use our system is learning, and it's going to help you be smarter, better landlords. So please look us up and feel free to reach out to me with any questions you have. And I'm more than happy to talk about this because I'm really excited about this venture. This is just to show you the form that we have now, and it's going to be changing over probably the next few weeks or so and look a bit different. But this is a form that you just fill in that we can collect all the information and help match you to whatever it is that you need. We have more events planned. The next one is July 23rd. It's going to be a landlord town hall where we'll talk about all kinds of things and open it up to the audience, primarily to discussion. There's always something to talk about in landlording in Philadelphia. And so keep an eye out for that. There's the registration isn't out there yet, but we'll put that out there soon. So the places to keep an eye are the Facebook group. Sign up for our newsletter. If you just go to reallandlording.com, you'll easily find the newsletter registration. We don't bombard you with a lot of salesy type information. We try to keep it really focused on stuff that you need to know now, news that's coming up, important announcements, and things like that. So that is it for that part. Okay. So Tracy, if you can unmute yourself. And so welcome. I'm so happy and honored to have you here. You are one of the people I most admire in landlording in Philadelphia. You're so
Oh,
calm, cool, collected,
well,
and you
thank
deal with all
you.
this compliance stuff and landlords and all of the craziness that comes with that. So I really appreciate that you've agreed to join me and share your information.
Absolutely,
So the
sure.
first thing, actually, is there anything that you'd like to say to people just to introduce yourself and to the landlord locker room? And let me just show everybody. See, I got my landlord locker room coffee cup.
It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm excited for the growth of real landlording as well. And you know, Cheryl, back in 2020, when things were really crazy, a lot of us who were really committed to trying to just help landlords figure things out and kind of navigate the process, we just started helping, doing whatever we could. And you kept on growing the Facebook group and now Real Landlording. And I just kept chugging away, trying to help people through the landlord locker room. And I think we're making strides. So I'm excited to see people here really interested in compliance and really interested in trying to help get their affairs in order so that they can still, be successful in landlording in Philadelphia. So I'm
Oh,
excited and thank you for asking me.
all right. So, just to let people know, so we're going to go through some things, some of the basics on compliance, and then we're going to talk about the new regulations that are coming up, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers because I'm sure that people have all kinds of questions that they'd like to take advantage of Tracy's knowledge. So Tracy, can you go through the basics of compliance, like the documents and all the really important things that people have to have in order?
Okay. Well, currently, because we know that things are going to change a little bit come November, but currently, when you start a new lease with a tenant, there's some documents that you must provide to them, and you must make sure that you have proof that you've provided to them. Now, your rental license is a compliance document, but currently it's not required to be given to the tenant, but it will be in November. So currently, when you get a new tenant, you have to give them a certificate of rental suitability, which can't be, it can't be older than 60 days from the lease date. You also have to provide the Partners in Good Housing Handbook, and you have to make sure that it's the current version. Now, they recently changed the version, I think in October of last year or something like that, to include voter registration information. So that's a requirement that we have to provide to tenants now, but they put it in that book. So if you give them the book, then you're fine. Or you can print it out and give it to them as a supplement to something. But make sure you have the current version. And I say that because the prior version has the same cover. It looks exactly the same. It would be nice if they would have changed it, but they didn't. So just make sure it has the voter registration information and the one that you provide currently, because it looks like the previous one. You also have to provide the bed bug notice, the brochure that the city provides. You have to provide the bed bug information. You have to provide your lead safe or lead free certificate along with the test results as well, and an EPA brochure, the EPA lead brochure giving information about lead. And then you also have to provide the tenant with information about bed bug infestation in the unit within the last 120 days. Now, even if you haven't had any bed bug activity, you still have to provide them with that information. And if you have, you need to let them know how it was remediated and what your plan is for maintaining the property bed bug free. So
Okay.
those are. Mhm. Is that a
No, no, go
question?
ahead. Keep going.
Okay, yeah, those are the main compliance documents that need to be provided to each tenant at each new at when you're first signing your lease. And the key is to make sure that you have proof that you provided it to them. So either provide it to them electronically and show proof from the sent email receipt that you sent it to them, that they received it. You can get them to sign off on a separate document or on the lease that they received it. You can, send it to them and keep a copy of your certified mail receipt. If you send it to them in the mail, I would recommend taking a picture of what's the contents of the envelope along with your little green and white mail receipt to show that it was sent to them and keep that as proof. Anything that you can prove to show that you provided it to them, because if you don't and they claim they never received it, then that can impact your ability to collect rents that are owed during that time period that they claim they didn't receive it. So that's really important to make sure that you provide all of those documents to the tenant at the inception of the lease.
And do they need to sign the documents?
None of the documents have to be, well, the lead certificate is supposed to be signed by the tenant. Okay, that it's supposed to be. They haven't been enforcing that, and some lead certificates have a signature line and some don't. So it's just good practice to have them sign off if you can, or prove that you provided it to them. If you have a line on your lead safe certificate that says the tenant should sign, have them sign it, but not all of them have that. So as long as you can prove that you provided it to them, it seems to be okay with the court so far. Anything can change, but currently it hasn't been an issue.
Okay. And Could you define for people what the rental suitability certificate is? I think it's something that people don't really understand.
Yeah. The certificate of rental suitability really, since the city does not do their own inspections, it's their way to have us provide a document to state that our property is safe, it's habitable, and it's free of violation. That's in lieu of someone going in and verifying it. They're making us say that we have fire, all our fire suppression systems are intact, our smoke detectors, it's habitable, it's safe, and we are attesting to that. And that's what that says. So if you have a violation in your property, you may not be able to acquire a certificate of rental suitability. But that is what that document is for. The rental license gives you the authority to collect rent, and that's related to making sure all your taxes are paid with the city, tax forms are paid with the city, and you don't have any other administrative things outlying. And that's how the rental license is viewed. That it's just kind of, I can collect rent and my property is safe. Now here you can rent it. Here's the key, and that's that.
And the rental suitability, it has to be pulled within, is it 90 days of the tenancy when the tenancy starts? Is
Well,
that?
when you start the new lease, it can't be older than 60 days. So you
Oh,
could have
okay.
pulled it, within 60 days of the lease start date. You can provide that.
And one of the co kind of controversies, or that I see a lot of back and forth about whether you have to get a new rental suitability with each lease renewal. And I've had attorneys say yes, and I've had attorneys say no.
Well, I'm not an attorney, but I say that you should give a new rental suitability at every renewal for an annual lease. So you give it at the inception of the lease and at every annual renewal. It's not required to be given to a tenant on a month-to-month lease, which renews each month, but it's more related to annual leases, and you should provide it. But when we get to this section, a lot is changing with that. That's just
Right,
the
right.
situation right now is what we're discussing, but it will change in the future.
Okay. And maybe just like a couple words about the lead safe and what that's really all about, because a lot of people confuse between lead free, lead safe, and what they shouldn't do. What happens
Well,
when they fail a test, and what and does that mean they can't rent their unit?
That's a little tricky. The If the property was built before 1978, I believe it is, you're required to have a lead safe certificate. If it's after that, then you might can get a lead free certificate where there's no lead indicated in the property, and then you're fine with that. But that's the difference. And it used to be you had to provide it if you had tenants with children less than six, and now it's for every property. All properties need to be, well, residential properties need to be inspected for lead. If you if you fail an inspection, they will try to allow you to go remediate, maybe clean or something like that, to fix it. But if it's something more involved in painting and all of that, there are companies that you can hire. There's a process that the city goes through, some people on this call may have experienced that before. I see some of the names of what's encountered when you fail a lead inspection and how you remediate it and how the city handles that. But it's really just letting the tenant know that there's no evidence of lead in the property. Now, I've seen people get lead safe certificates and everything is fine. And then there's still a claim of lead in the property because you can bring it in on your feet. You can track it in. There's all kinds of ways for it to get in. So, it's not a 100% system with the testing. But it's basically letting them know that there's no significant amounts, and it should be relatively safe
Right.
for
Okay.
habit. Yeah,
One, just a quick tip. One of the things I always tell people I do with my own properties, just try to make sure that there's no chipping paint. So
absolutely.
like, windowsills tend to wear down for whatever
Hmm.
reason. So
Hmm.
I'll send, especially when I know that there's kids in a property, I'll send a painter in every,
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe every 2 years or so, just go and paint the windowsills. It's like,
It makes
it's
sense.
cheap and Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um,
And then before you have a lead test, you should clean your floors, vacuum clean, wipe all the windowsills down. Those are the areas that they test. They only
right.
test bedrooms. They test your floor and your windowsill. So if you do clean those really good before the test, you should be okay. And good inspectors, if you fail in those areas, they'll give you an opportunity to do it again and then go
Right.
back and retest.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important to work with the right inspectors, and um there is an abundance of lead testing.
Oh my goodness, yes.
It's
Yes.
like throw a brick and you're going to hit a lead inspector in Philadelphia. But but so yeah, you want to work with people who understand. So all right, that was great. I needed that refresher for sure.
And you know what?
Mm,
Let me add one more. Let me add one more thing about the lead inspections. Just a nuance. Your lead inspection, and we have a lot of properties. I say this because a lot of properties in the city are not zoned necessarily for what the occupancy is. So when the lead inspector comes, they're going to base it on what the city has the property is listed as. So if there is like if you've got like 2 units in there and the city says you have one or something like that, they're going to base it on what the city says because it should match up to the occupancy there, and that could be a little tricky. So if you have any concerns, I would talk to the lead inspector beforehand and see what they recommend because some will work with you on that and some won't. So that's just a little nuance if you have that kind of scenario with your property.
okay. And I will mention, and I mean, this might come up in the Q&A, but maybe I can answer it before, is there's a huge problem that a lot of people find themselves in a situation where the tenant is being difficult about letting a lead inspector in, and then you can't get your lead safe certificate, can't get your rental license, and it's on you. So there are kind of solutions. Like we have in our network, we have a lead inspector who has, I forget what they call it, but like non-entry or refusal of entry service, and they help you work your way through it and document what's going on. So keep that in
Yes,
mind.
they do. And I'll tell you, there is a process that the city has for that. You can do that yourself. You just
Mhm.
have to make sure that you document everything,
Exactly.
you make sure you inform the tenant when you plan to come, give them at least 2 dates as an option, not just one, and show the responses and all of that. And the city will give you a waiver for 6 months
Right.
to allow you that time.
Okay. So let's move on to what's going on and what changes that are coming. I think it's November 1st. The, wait, remind me what they're calling it.
The
Because
Safe and Healthy Home. Oh, you mean the
the
right to
Safe and Healthy
repairs and
Homes.
yeah,
Yes.
the Safe and Healthy Homes Act. Okay, great.
Go ahead. What are we in
Ah,
for?
well, there's so many different changes. I guess we can focus on just a few for the sake of time. But a couple of the important ones are going to be related to the rental license, the certificate of rental suitability, good cause, and retaliation. These are some of the areas that have significant change. And I have a couple of notes because of course they have dates all over the place and time frames and all of that, but as it relates to the rental license, okay, now, well, starting in November, you're going to be required to provide the rental license to the tenant at the inception of the lease and at the renewals. So when you give the CRS at the renewal, you'll also provide a copy of your rental license to the tenant. Um, the rental license, once you renew your rental license each year, you have to provide that renewal to your tenant. And you have to provide it within 7 days, I believe, of getting your license renewed. You have to provide it to them. Now you can mail it to them. You can post it. If it's a single unit or a duplex, you can email it to them if they agree to emails, but it must be provided to them now. If for some reason you're unable to get your license, say you go to renew your license and you're not able to get it, you have to inform your tenant of the fact that you don't have your rental license. And if you file an appeal, because rental licenses are, like I said before, are related to taxes and tax forms and those types of things. And so if you find that that's an issue, then you can file an appeal. And then within, I believe, 5 days of filing the appeal, you have to inform the tenant that you filed an appeal, the nature of the appeal, as well. So they really are focusing on transparency, and they want us to now continue to inform the tenant, because if we are not able to provide a rental license, that means that we are not legally allowed to collect rent. And the tenant is aware that they're not required to pay it. Before, we could, our license might be, lapsed or expired, and if the tenant is still paying the rent, then, we could still collect it. And they couldn't claim, file to get it back from us, but that has changed. So now they've added in a nuance where if it gives the tenant the opportunity to sue us for any rent that has been paid during the time that the license was not active.
So this
So,
is a big one, because it really makes you vulnerable that if you are not 100% compliant, there's a
mhm,
lot of gotchas here. And I think that a lot of most tenants are not going to be aware of this, but there is a lot of effort, first of all, to educate them, because there's a lot of
mhm.
tenant organizations that are going out and doing events and letting tenants know. I don't know how much of an impact that truly has, but the thing that I think might happen is that people are going to offer services. It could be attorneys, it could just be people who looking for a side hustle to offer tenants that, hey, did you know you might be able to get all your rent back, even if you're really happy with your unit and your landlord is a wonderful person? So just be aware of that. Just be compliant and you'll be fine.
That's the
So
key. That's your best defense. And it's not impossible. It just means that I know we're all busy, but you have to stay on top of tracking all of your compliance, your expiration dates, and all of that so that you can stay on top of it. Now, they
exactly.
did include a 15-day grace period for rental licenses. So if you forget that it expired and it expired 10 days ago and you just realized it, they will give you that 15-day grace period. So nothing happens during that period of time. As long as you're able to renew during that 15 days, you still can maintain your right to collect rent. So, they try to throw a bone here or there, but you must now keep in mind that the rental license has always been a public document, but because we didn't have to provide it to the tenant, we didn't necessarily, think about some of the nuances. But a lot of landlords have their home addresses on their rental licenses, because when you're applying for it, you don't realize what it's going to be or say, or all of those things. So you just provide all of the regular information they ask for. But your home address, if you use it, will be on your rental license, and that is going to be provided to your tenant. So that's something to keep in mind if you want to keep a level of anonymity. If you have another address that you can use, but just keep in mind that you'll be providing that, and it will have your home address on it.
Okay, good to know that. So, and what about good cause eviction? That's another big change.
Yeah, with good cause, well, currently, good cause is only required for month-to-month leases. But come November, it'll also be applied to annual leases. So you'll need a good cause to terminate any lease that you have with a tenant. And um, you have to now, well, I'll say it's so many different pieces to it, but now tenants can request a CRS from you. Before, it's just a matter of providing it at the inception of the lease and providing annually, but every 90 days, they have the right to request a CRS from you. And if they request it from you, you have to provide it to them within 10 days of the request.
Okay.
Um, mhm.
Which and what would why would they want to do that? Is that so that they can see if there are any violations on the property?
I assume they live in the property, they would know, but the city feels that they should have a right to ask you for that piece of paper.
Okay. I
So,
think, is it
mhm.
particularly for people with single family? I don't think that there's too much concern because like you're just dealing with that one tenant or that one family. But when it's multifamily, like if there's a violation on one unit, it affects all units, correct? There's some complication there or complexity there.
It is because, you're renting, you have one rental license for 3 units. And so you can't separate the units in a multi-unit property. So if you have a violation in one unit and a tenant from another unit requests a CRS, you may not be able to get one, and there's nothing wrong in their unit.
Right.
But
So,
if they
make
ask
sure
for
your
it,
heat is working in all your units. Make sure you're good.
and it could be small things. It's not even necessarily just the big things like the lack of heat, but it could be a smoke detector is not working. It could be that the outlet is cracked or broken, or it could be something like that. It could be something like that that they could call L&I and make a complaint. And they don't have to make the complaint to you first. They can just go straight to L&I and make the complaint,
Right.
which
So
I
again,
think. Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I just want to point out, like, it really sounds scary, and I don't know what everybody's experiences are, but I think most of us have um, probably good relations with our tenants, and it's a good situation. It it happens that people, for whatever reason, want to cause a problem or think that, they weren't treated properly. Anything can happen. But that
Mhm.
if you maintain good relations with tenants and they want to stay in your property, they're not going to try to use those gotchas by reporting a cracked um, outlet or, some minor problem, right? So as scary as this sounds, it's not probably going to happen a lot, but it does put us all in a vulnerable situation for sure.
It does. And for the reason that you mentioned too, now they're adding in the ability to not have to pay rent, and they're tying that directly to these things, which is going to incentivize a lot of people, even the nice tenants, because nice tenants have bills and they get stressed out and they might like
Yes.
you, but there's an opportunity for them to save some money. So I don't know which one they might choose. I think regardless of how things are going, if you're diligent on doing certain things, then you should generally be protected. And then there's some additional things you can do to try to maintain the relationship and establish goodwill and all of those things to hopefully prevent someone from trying to do something like that. But like you're saying, Cheryl, it's just important to just stay on top of your compliance.
Right. And
Um,
then what about the inspection program that they're talking about? Is that real?
Um, they claim that they're going to have the money to be able to have inspectors come out and do in-person inspections. So they did pilot that with the Airbnbs, with the mandatory inspections for those, and I don't know how that's been going. But I don't. I think it was 2027 when they plan to establish that. I think they gave a date. I don't.
Yeah.
Sometime they claim, but and they'll probably phase it in, but I'm not sure about that. Um,
So, so for
mhm,
those of you who don't know what that's like, it's just, it's something to be ready for. And I don't think we know what things are going to be on their list. And
mhm,
it really could be anything. In one of the markets that I own in Lehigh Valley, there's some of the municipalities and boroughs do inspections like once every 2 years. I've been hit hard, but in properties that are in really good shape and all kinds of exterior work, like, painting the underside of the porch and different things that have cost me quite a bit and haven't made anything better for the tenant, but it's just, it's something that you have to deal with. So who knows what they're gonna be requiring, right? Someone
absolutely.
in our Facebook group was talking about this is more well, this was a L&I inspection for, I don't know why L&I was inspecting, but she showed pictures of her sidewalk, which had some cracks with grass growing through. And they were telling her that she has to replace her sidewalks, and these were not trip hazards or anything. And we're talking, about thousands and thousands of dollars. Now she's probably going to contest it, and she was sharing the story because she was asking how can I get this reversed. So just be aware and keep your keep watching the news and
Mhm.
watching information sources that are keeping us updated about what to expect.
Absolutely. And we'll be sharing that on the Landlord Locker Room social media as well as we start to get more information about some of these things. We post about it as well. So go and follow and stay informed that way as well. Now, as far as good cause, getting back to the good cause, they have expanded not just to annual leases, but they've expanded it to being required for any action of eviction. So now you have to provide good cause to your tenant whenever you initiate any type of eviction process, including the eviction diversion program. So when you're applying for the eviction diversion program, you must provide the tenant with a statement of good cause as well, because that's considered initiating an eviction, which it shouldn't, because the whole point of it is to prevent an eviction. But now they're lumping it under, an eviction action. So you have to provide good cause for that as well. And they've included or changed one of the good causes. All the typical good causes are still in effect. Will still be in effect because again, we're talking about November. So you can still, any breaches in your lease, they don't agree to, new lease terms, and all those things are still valid. What they changed was when you want to say that you're selling your property. Before, you could say, I'm selling the property, I'm taking it off the market, and that's a good cause. End of story. But now, if you're saying that you need the property vacant because you're selling the property, now they want you to prove it by providing an executed agreement of sale. And it has to be an arm's length agreement. It can't be like a family member or something like that. And they also want you to have a document or a letter from the buyer confirming that they plan to occupy the property themselves within 90 days of the sale. So they
Okay.
want all of this information now if you use that particular good cause.
So a couple things I want to just point out. Like I think that this all sounds very overwhelming and scary. There's no doubt this is a big change and it's concerning and it's a burden upon small landlords in particular. But we had an event a couple of months ago, got together through the Facebook group. It was somebody's idea, and then we just turned it into a real landlording event at some restaurant. And someone made a really good point. Someone who he's a property manager and he's been in the business for 20 or so years. He said he's seen stuff come and go over the years constantly. And in his attitude is just roll with the punches. And some of the stuff has an impact and some of the stuff doesn't have an impact. And he's still here and he still owns properties and his clients own properties and people survived. So again, going back to, you got to be diligent, you got to be responsible about this and discipline and develop your own systems and all of that. Um, like one of the things I just wanted to point out is that, complaining about it, I get it, and I complain, ask my husband, but um, but it doesn't get you anywhere. And that's why, like, this is just like, I invited Tracy on because I know she's so positive and she's got, she understands this stuff. And it's just like, this is what you have to do and do it. It's a business. And you'll
Absolutely.
get through it. So I want to
Absolutely.
we have 20 minutes or so, so I want to open it up to questions. Just looking first to the chat. So Selena asked if we know if HAPCO has updated their pamphlet in the lease. that they offer? Because HAPCO has a free lease. Do you know, Tracy? I wouldn't know that.
I think they said that they were going to do it after November. So I think HAPCO is taking a kind of wait and see thing because they're still hoping that this law won't go into effect because there's still a lawsuit going on or something still going
Right,
on with
that's true.
HAPCO.
We didn't
So
talk about
it's a
that.
possibility that this law might get delayed or maybe not go into effect. I don't know how likely that is, but I think HAPCO is taking a wait and see. So they're probably going to wait until closer to November to start updating their documents, but they do plan to update their
Okay,
documents.
good point. And Aisha asked, the new version of Partner for Good Housing Handbook has a space for the bed bug attestation. Does this suffice, or do you recommend a separate one?
If it has that in there, then I would say that should suffice. But I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly if it states if there's a space in there for you to say whether or not you had any activity, and if you have, what the remediation was, then that will suffice because you have to provide that to them in some form. So you can either use that, or you can put it in your lease somewhere, or you can give them additional document for that.
Great. Okay. Jean Dudley, I see you're raising your hand.
Yes. Hey Tracy, I don't know if you remember me.
Hi, Jean.
We spoke about a month ago while you were on vacation about a tenant leaving your unit coming into mine, and I called you while you were on
Oh,
vacation.
yes, yes, yes.
So I
Yes.
just wanted to say hi. But I did
Good to
have a
see you.
question. I live outside of the city, so I use my parents' address as my license address. And obviously, with us having to give it to all the tenants now, I definitely don't want my parents' address on there. I do have a virtual address that I use, but it's outside the city. And I remember before they said you had to have an address inside the city, so which is why I use my parents'. So what would you suggest now if I have to give it to every tenant? I obviously don't want them coming to my mom's house or my parents' house. And if I did get a virtual address that's not like an actual house, would that be okay? Because I have one, like I said, in outside of the city, but I don't. I think when I do get my rental license for these, they're going to probably push back because it's outside of the city.
Mhm.
But just wanted to know how I can get around that.
Well, that's a great question, because they have enacted a new law where you can't use virtual addresses anymore. Now, a lot of us have been using them, including myself. I use virtual addresses, but they're cracking down on that now, because it's really supposed to be an address where they can serve you documents if they need to, and they can't do that at a virtual address. So there's a law that's enacted, and I'm sure they're starting to. I haven't seen much activity on it yet, but it's there. And since they're upgrading the Eclipse system this weekend, they may start to put new things in there that can weed out virtual addresses. I don't know. But it's not difficult to determine if it's a virtual address. They can
Right.
look it up. So I'd recommend trying to find something else local in the city. It has to be in the city, to use. Now, I know that we are working with different brokerages and different companies and organizations to provide addresses to landlords. So you can definitely reach out,
Okay.
where you'll be able to use an actual address. And if you get any mail or anything like that, then there'll be a way for you to be contacted and all of that. But I would stay away from, especially if you're starting to do it now, I would stay away from using a virtual address.
Okay. And then just take my parents' address off the license, right?
Yes, you can amend your rental license. So if you have it and it's in effect, you can do it, of
Yeah.
course, at your renewal. But if it's in effect, you can go in and make an amendment to your
Okay.
rental license and change that information.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm. You're welcome.
E- Every time there's a new law, a new business develops and people rush to provide a solution. So whatever laws you see coming, I guarantee you within months there'll be a solution
Of
for
course,
whatever problem they've caused us.
of course.
Does anybody else have a question? You
I
can raise your
saw a
hand or
question. I think
Um,
Aisha.
yeah, I just wanted to know with that, I've seen people say, oh, they use the actual, especially with multi-units, they use the rental property. And they literally just, which I was like, I don't know if I want to do that either. Because Jean, I'm like you. I live outside the city. I've been using that great Germantown post office address, which a recent one, they pushed back on that. So then I put my parents' address. And now that we have to provide this license, I totally do not want my parents' address on it. So would you recommend maybe using the rental property address or if you have a portfolio, a specific rental property that you have that address?
I would only do that if you have a unit there that you occupy or that's not occupied that will receive the mail. They're not going to let you just use the property address and you attest that you don't live there or occupy it. Nor do you want the
Mm,
city's mail going to the rental address for your tenants to receive.
that's true.
So I would definitely not do that.
Just gonna tell my mom they're knocking on your door. No, no, I'm joking. I'm
And I'll
joking.
tell you, I'll be honest, it's very rare that you will
Mm.
receive mail from the city. It's very rare. It would be in the instance of maybe a violation or something of that. And they don't send casual mail
Mm.
to you, so that might help. You could use a cousin, I don't know, or a distant family member or something. If you can consider that, but you won't get a lot of mail, so that might help you determine what kind of address you use.
All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Carla. Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
One, I want to disagree that you won't get important mail because I missed when they changed the taxes on one of my properties. I didn't know to fight it for a year because they also did it exactly when the abatement was up. So and then when I tried to fight them for the 2025 taxes, I went to court and they literally brought in a guy from the post office to say that they had mailed this piece of mail, and that was their argument as to why I wasn't entitled to lower taxes. So I do think they send important things. I also represent landlords who don't live in the city. And I work for Compass. I also am a landlord. And I asked so I had a landlord that was like, can you be my agent? So, whatever. And I said, no, I'm your agent, but I'm not your agent. And then I asked Compass's um, compliance. Like, what do we do? Like, what do I tell a landlord that doesn't live in the city? And they just advised me to send them, some information about these companies, but the companies are very expensive. I mean, to manage your correspondence and be your agent, I mean, from what I saw was kind of like $1,000 a year. So something really, they're really taking advantage of the situation. And then lastly, I just wanted to ask, and I'm not sure who can answer this, like as far as these um new rules about like telling people why you're not renewing their lease. Is there anything that I'm sure that we are, but is HAPCO actively fighting this? I mean, I have no problem like taking my lumps as you were, but I mean it is obviously egregious. I mean, so is there any actions being taken to, stand up for landlords as this becomes an issue?
Tracy, do you wanna?
You can, because I'm not sure what HAPCO is doing. I'm not on the board. I am on one of their committees, but I'm not sure what their plans are
Yeah.
for that.
So I'm not on the board either. I'm on a committee, but they have been fighting it. They did a lot of negotiating on this. You have to understand when they go and they speak to some of these city council members, logic does not win. So, they're working for their constituents, right? One of the points that was made is that every day constituents are coming into their offices and saying that their landlords have done this, that, and the other thing to them. Landlords aren't coming into their offices and telling them anything.
Mm.
Um, so that, but they are fighting it. It is, I don't know all the logistics of like the legal battle that's going on. It's in court. So there's a chance, like they violated, they call it the Sunshine Act. I'm not an attorney and I
Mhm.
don't
No, I'm not
remember.
judging you in that way. That's fine.
But so it is being fought still. So there is some hope, but the law as it exists today is, or as it's written right now, is a kind of compromise. It was a hard struggle. They were working very hard on this, and
No, I
it's
remember.
tough.
I just find it and I know everybody's thought of this, but it's so short-sighted to have us in this gotcha situation because the only people that won't have a gotcha is like a Blackstone or a BlackRock, the guys that have algorithms and systems that can always make sure their rental license is up to date and all the things. Does it make sense for us to organize, and maybe this is a question for HAPCO specifically, like just a landlord sit-in on each of these council people's offices? Like if we need to make our presence known, I mean, I know how to make people show up for things.
You should bring it up at a HEPCO meeting. I went to one hearing. I testified. It was a very, very, very unpleasant experience.
Oh no,
Having
why?
people yell, well, people yelled shame at me. Like, what am I don't have anything to be ashamed but it was very unpleasant. They're very well organized. I have a lot to say about it, but I don't want to
Yep,
say it
yep, yep.
here.
Got it.
It's a tough situation. So, and that's not even where the decisions actually get made. I think calling council members, writing letters, and letting them hear, because that's how they make their decisions. They don't make their decisions based on
Exactly.
research or what they think is going to make life better. They make their decision on what's going to get them voted in. That's my
Yeah.
personal opinion.
Let me just say to
So,
that one thing, Carla, on the rental license where it says mailing address, you can make that different. So when it comes to your taxes and those filings, it can go to a different address. So it can be different for the purposes of the rental license. So
right.
it's
But
not necessarily where you're,
can it go to a PO box or to a
no.
different state? Okay,
It can't be a
Yeah.
PO box either, but it
Yeah,
can be different than your tax information and all of that as
sure,
well.
Yeah,
sure.
I get everything to my house and that's outside of the city, but I have a property manager inside the city, so I have it
Yeah,
divided like that.
just for that.
At least, oh,
And one quick thing I wanted to say, we can share it another time. But when we were talking about communicating with City Council, we do have a form, an email that we plan to start providing to give on the grounds feedback to City Council when these laws go into effect. And we have a system set up where it can go to your council member, the city council president, to council member O'Rourke every time we encounter an issue or interaction with the new laws, and be able to email them every time, and we'll have a documentation of it so we can start to collect data about what's going on and hopefully make change that way as well. So there are some other things working in the background to try to confront the issue for us and galvanize, but I think we need to create that data just like tenants do and say all the bad things landlords do. We need to collect the data on how tenants act as well. So I just wanted to share that. There's some things being worked on.
Hi,
yeah,
this is Vanessa
wait,
Barbetti. Can you hear me? Can I just chime in on something?
sure. And then Alicia, I saw that you had raised your hand.
Yeah, I don't know how to raise my hand because I'm
It's
looking
okay. It's
around
okay.
here. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know either. And sorry, I'm with my 1-year-old, so you might hear him.
Yeah.
But about the rental license address, and I think some people are referring to the managing agent of the property has to live in Philadelphia. It was my understanding that the tenant can actually be the managing agent themselves. So then I think with that, the physical address could be the property and then the mailing address different.
I've never heard that, or that's interesting. But I've
I
never
think
heard that. Mhm.
I think it's in the housing brochure because like I
I,
read everything word for word and I
Here's a
think in there it
suggestion.
says that.
Everybody here, if you're not already a HAPCO member, become one. I think it's 195 a year. And they have, for anybody who doesn't know, they have periodic ask the attorney, and then you'll get the actual answer that, Tracy and I aren't attorneys and all this stuff seems to change, and you'll get the official answer from Paul Cohen.
And they offered free some. I mean, they opened it up sometime to non-members too. So you
That's
might get lucky and be able to chime in.
And there's
So
a new
can
president and things are looking very exciting there. So,
so
I
can
think
may I ask a question, please, on this very same topic? I apologize for just jutting in here, but I can't find the
go
hand.
ahead, don't worry about it.
Okay. So regarding this rental license thing and our addresses showing up on it and everything. Now, I'm not currently having a problem. So yay, good for me, but that doesn't speak for the future. But my question is, okay, understanding that I have to give my tenants a copy of the rental license, can I not, let's just say that I have problem tenants, hypothetically. Can I just not white out my address on the rental license and give them the rental license with my address whited out?
It's possible.
Because the reason I'm thinking is that because having, again, it's not my issue, but having the landlord's home address on a rental license is a security issue. Like, I see it as a security issue. So
it's true, but let me just remind you that it's a public document. So you can white it out on the printed out copy that you give to your tenant, but if they were to go online to look it up, they may be able to find that information.
Right, unless they don't know how or are too lazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But I mean, that's what I would think that I would want
You
to
could
do.
try it.
Yeah.
I would suggest doing it and find out if it's not okay. If you do that, I mean, the only way to know is if they forwarded it or did something to with fair housing or something to find out whether or not what the position is of the city when it comes to that. But I would try it out. If you can't make a change, I would try it out and see what happens.
Yeah, because my argument would be like, so if the city needs to find me, they'll be able to find me, or if somebody needs to serve me, they would be able to find me. But there's no reason on the planet why the tenants need to know where I reside, unless they're coming to visit me.
Bring you flowers.
But if you white it out, I guarantee they're gonna look it up. I mean, that would make me suspicious, but.
Right.
I think Alicia, you were waiting patiently with your hand raised.
I'm so sorry. Yes.
Is she still here?
Thank you. My question, I heard that when you don't have the rental license, you can't get the rent. With the lead test, what is prevented from that? Like you can't collect rent. Is that also the same thing? Or I know you can't get your license, I don't think.
With lead.
So my situation is I know that my lead test is coming up in October, so I just want to try to get ahead of that. Do you suggest to get it done before October so it doesn't lapse? Or I guess I'm just trying to.
You certainly can. You don't have to wait till it expires to get it. You can certainly get it prior to. So if you get it a few months early, that's great. Because with the lead, the tenants can sue you for all the money. They can sue you for the money that they've paid you while your property wasn't compliant with lead and you didn't provide them the lead certificate. Like even if you got the test and you have the results, but you didn't give that information to the tenant, they can sue you.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, they can sue you for any rent paid. So they can do that now. That's going to be new for the rental license in November, but that's something current for the lead safe certificate. So you definitely want to make sure you do that. You don't have to wait till it expires.
Okay.
Can I chime in? I would definitely, Alicia, I want to say I would definitely not wait till it expires. And I say that because now it's tied in. So they literally they have like a LHH site or something, but it connects to your rental license. So if your lead cert expired and you're trying to get your rental license, they won't let you. Or even if you're trying to renew it, right? Assuming you've had it already, you had the lead cert already, but now that lead cert is expired, they will not let you get it. So I went a day where it was like, and we didn't have to notify tenants, thank God yet, Tracy. But I went like a couple days over because they couldn't do it. The guy did the test. We were waiting for the test results from the lab, just all this little things. But then finally, once I put the results in and but it was like expired for technically maybe 6 or 7 days before it was truly renewed because they would not let me renew it with that old lead cert on file.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a lapse. So the lead test expires in October, and then I don't have to renew my license until February. So in my mind, I was thinking maybe I have a little bit of time, but according to what you're saying, I'm not compliant. Okay.
Yeah, no.
That's all I needed to know. I will get my lead
Yeah,
test done. Thank
absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions?
Can I go back to the good cause changes? You mentioned like good cause changes if you're selling. There was also a good cause rule, like if your immediate family member wanted to
Mhm.
move in. Did
That's
they
still,
change that? Yeah,
no,
I mean, did they change like, oh, now you got to have an attestation or something from them? You know what I mean?
no, they haven't so far.
She
Okay,
said
they
so
haven't
far.
so far because you don't
Okay.
know, but no, they
Okay.
haven't. So the original good causes are still in effect. They
Okay.
just added a tweak to the one that you want to sell the property because
That
that
you
was
want
kind of like you could just say it and that would be the end of it. Now
I
they
see.
want you to prove it as well. And
Okay.
I did want to, unless you had something else, Aisha.
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I wanted to share something else about retaliation with the new laws that I did not include before. And just so you know, and this plays into the way that you interact with your tenant. They now have a 1 year timeline for retaliation, what they consider a retaliation period. So if a tenant files a complaint with L&I, if they join a tenant organization, or if they uh, cooperate with an investigation or anything like that, and you have a problem with it, if you make any changes to their lease, if you don't renew it, if you change a lease term or try to terminate, if it's within that 1 year of that event happening, they can consider that retaliation against them, and they can make a claim to fair housing, regardless of if that's the reason. But they can claim retaliation if it's within 1 year of them filing a complaint with L&I. So even if they don't, they're breaching the lease or they're doing something else, so you have other reasons for changing the terms. If it's within that 1 year, you have to make sure that you can prove that you have really good cause for making that change or terminating the lease, because the burden is on you to prove that it's not retaliation. The burden is not on them to prove that it is retaliation. So you want to make sure that when it comes to good cause, before you initiate anything, make sure your good cause is solid. And they want you to provide some specificity when you provide the good cause. Don't just say, okay, you breached the lease, or I'm just not renewing, or whatever the case may be. You need to say what the breach was. You need to be more detailed about what the good cause is. When you are, when you're making changes or terms. And then an additional thing is that they now are allowing the tenant to sue you up to 4 years after they move out of the property, because they're putting, and I hate to add on because it's harder for us to stay positive, but you can still say positive. But the more you know, the better it is for you. So when you know these things, then you can prepare for it. So I advise everyone to get copies of the Safe and Healthy Homes Act, the Right to Safety and the Right to Repair, so you can read it and or attend sessions like this, so you have some basic knowledge, and are not surprised. You can act accordingly. But they do allow them to sue up to 4 years after they move out, for a retaliation cause, or something that may have been happening, or something at the time during the tenancy, related to retaliation. So
So Tracy,
that,
can I ask another question then on this topic?
sure.
Um, so let's just say again hypothetically that I'm looking to sell my rental. Um, so so in order for me to sell my rental, a prospective buyer would maybe want to see the inside of the rental, et cetera, et cetera. Like I'm so confused by this because it's almost like they're trying to prevent me from selling a house, my property. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
Totally.
so
I totally understand.
yeah, so it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. So in order for me to present this to my tenants, they want proof of what? That I contracted out to a realtor. What if I don't use a realtor? What if I'm selling it independently?
No, no, they
Or
want an actual agreement of sale. is what they
Okay,
want.
but then how can I sell the house if my prospective buyers can't get into the house to look at it?
Or if
Well,
you want to
that's
sell your house vacant.
Also, not to mention, I mean, technically, you don't have to use a realtor. I mean, I am a realtor, but there's lots of FSBOs. How could the government force you to sign a realtor? You don't have to do that. You can sell your house
the,
yourself.
Right, but how can either way, no matter how I do it, what do how do I how do I how am I ensured that I can get prospective buyers in there to look at a house that they would want to buy?
well, a couple of things, and I don't have all the answers. I agree with you 150%. Like this particular new rule bothered me the most.
Uh-huh.
And I went and I spoke to Council Member O'Rourke's one of his aides there about it. It really, really bothered me. But you can still sell it, of course, with the tenant in it, and that's already we already have a process for that because you have a lease and
Yes, and
you
I've
can
done
do
that
all of
before.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
So they really wanted to tie this down, and you don't have many options. Your option would be one to try to get the tenant out of the property prior to the sale, but then it's going to be vacant longer. It's better to, if you could have them in still
Right.
collecting rent, but they're making it more difficult. So if you want to show it or sell it vacant, I'd suggest that your good cause be something like uh, you need to make repairs or you need to prepare it or something like that to get the tenant out of the property and then have it vacant for sale.
Okay,
Um,
so forget the vacancy though. What if the tenant is in the property, will not doesn't want to leave the property,
mhm.
doesn't want me to sell the property, and so is becoming very difficult because they won't let me show the property? Like,
Well, then you would evict the tenant. You would try to evict the tenant for that reason. For the
okay,
fact that they're not letting you into the property for your lease should speak to that, to
okay,
inspections and to selling the property and being able to show it during that period of time. So if your tenant
right,
is not allowing you in, then your reason for eviction would be a breach of lease terms for that purpose. And that's what
okay,
you would use instead of selling. There's other, I mean, it's just only when you use that particular good cause. You can use other ones to get the tenant out, but if you want to use, I want to sell my property, that's what you have to use. So if that's too difficult, I suggest trying to find another good cause to use.
okay,
Or you might
okay,
want to raise your rent a lot.
To do
okay.
that. Hmm.
There's no laws about how much you
Nope,
can raise your rent
it's not.
yet.
Yet, yet.
Is there a
Everything
list
is
of good
yet.
causes?
What's that?
Is there a list somewhere of the good causes?
Um, I
That's a
believe
good
on
question.
Landlord Gateway should
Okay.
have that. I'm not sure, but I do have some here that I'll just share really quickly. Habitual non-payment of rent, breaches of material terms in the lease, nuisance activity, substantial deterioration of the property that requires you to rehab it, refusal to provide access when given proper notice, or the owner or immediate family member wants to occupy the property, um, refusal to accept rent increases, and renovations, things like that. So those are all good causes. So if you can
Okay.
find one of those, you're okay, and you're
Okay.
not stuck with using I want to sell my property.
Okay, but you're still kind of screwed because now I've just lost, I mean, understanding. I mean, it's not your fault, but you're still screwed because now I've lost time
Yeah,
going through the good cause stuff. Meanwhile, my prospective buyer has walked away.
that's possible.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Thank
I think
you.
there's a question from Lana. If I end up having someone manage property instead of myself, does anything change in terms of my rental license or business license? I don't think so. It's all the
No.
same laws, whoever's managing it. Just make sure that you're using licensed property management and a good one. I myself went through four until I found someone that does the job right in Philadelphia
Yeah.
anyway.
And it's tough because I'll tell you with realtors, a lot of realtors leave the compliance to the tenant, I mean to the landlord, and make the landlord get licenses and CRSs and all of that. But now, as I talk to and advise different property managers and agents, I'm telling them you can't do that anymore because you'll be roped into a non-compliant lease and not no collection of rent and all of those other things as well. So it's really important to make sure everybody's on board with compliance. The property manager, the landlord, everybody is on the same page with making sure that that stuff is done.
Definitely. So, all right, so we've gone a bit over time, so I think we're going to wrap up. Thank you everybody for coming, and please do us a favor and keep following us. Tracy, actually, can you talk about how people can find you and what they can follow and that kind of thing?
Yeah, sure. You can certainly go to our website at www.landlordlockerroom.com. We do offer free 15-minute consultations. We offer rental license services, consultations on tenant issues, evictions, compliance. We do mediation, landlord tenant mediations, cash for keys, all of those things. So any of the operational issues or questions or concerns you have, we can help you with those. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Landlord Locker Room and Wisdom for Landlords. So feel free to join. Feel free to follow us, and we will be providing updates on compliance as well.
Wonderful. And same goes for Real Landlording. The best place I think is just go to reallandlording.com. Sign up for our newsletter because that's where we'll always send out the most important stuff and keep you updated on things. We also give a lot of tips about different things like whatever's going on with the weather, what should you do with your roof, what kinds of issues surrounding HVAC. And we're always working with vendors and contractors to come up with different kinds of programs and solutions for whatever you need. Like we have a vendor that does routine visits to properties for a very reasonable rate. If you're remote or you're just, for whatever reason, you don't go visit your properties and you want someone to go there a couple times a year, make sure filters are changed or do that for you, cleaning gutters, all those kinds of things. We have packages for stuff like that. And we have vendors that do everything from the smallest stuff up to full gut rehabs. And it's all vetted so that you don't have to spend your days in Facebook groups trying to figure out what's going on there. So again, thanks for joining. We're going to put this up online, the recording, and you'll probably see we're also going to chop it up into bits and pieces of interesting, all the nuggets that Tracy dropped. So like stuff, it just helps us to get out there and build our business. And it's just, this is free. So as a thank you, if you don't mind doing that, I'll really appreciate it. And feel free to reach out to me with feedback or questions or anything. So have a great night. And I hope you guys learned a lot. I did. Tracy, thank you
Awesome.
once again.
Sure,
And
it was a pleasure.
see you guys in a couple weeks, I hope.
Thank you, everybody. This was
All
very
righty.
Thank you.
educational.
This was so great. Have a good
Good
evening.
night. Thank
Okay.
you.